Take two. Good morning. Welcome to Ag Talking Raw, where I talk raw about agriculture and other things that are on my mind. I know someone had said that I have different coffee mugs for the different channels, which I guess. I guess. So I've been trying to figure out a lighting solution for this. For my problems that I have. Ooh, that's too bright. There. No? Maybe here? Shadows. Ooh. Now that's not going to work. I'm going to have to come up with something different, better, more betterer. I mean, that wouldn't be too bad, maybe. I still got screwed my thing up. Oh, wow. Ooh, I'm going to have to do something about that. I got a new iPhone 10, I guess that's what this is. And I shot my other one full of hydraulic oil. And the iPhone 10 is very different than the iPhone 7 Plus, which is about the same size, but the functions are slightly different. And I'm still getting used to it probably 2 months in. So anyhow, yeah, that's that. So blah, blah. What am I doing here? Going to talk about a few questions that were asked. I was watching the How Farms Works live stream. It passed 200,000 subscribers. Go Ryan. I mean, I watched Millennial Farmer, and I congratulated him. Of course, I didn't get a response from Zach. I think he's probably a little pissed off because I use his name a little more often than I should, I guess, sometimes. But, it comes up in conversations. People like to compare me to other farms, and I can honestly tell you that there is no comparison to me and the other farms that I am compared to or asked to duplicate, replicate, and or assimilate with. I am my own unique individual. I have my own stuff. I do my own thing, and I really don't give a shit what other people say, but I find it to be like I give them honorable mention. So when a troll comes along and tells me something, and it's like, are you really that stupid? I give them honorable mention, and then I let my YouTubers or my subscribers, you guys, from on the One Only Farmer channel, but you guys on this channel or that channel can go and attack that asshole and take care of the problem. Of course, it creates a whole big fur ball of shit, and it crosses rivers, it crosses countries, it goes to other continents, and it goes everywhere. And, I'm such a wanker, as some of them call me. But that's okay, because I am me. And, it's just like the comment I made yesterday. It wasn't really a comment. It was an acknowledgement that people asked me, why don't you build a shop like Millennial Farmers? And that was on my One Lonely Farmer channel. And I am not bitching here. Just please don't be taking it that way. It's unfeasible for me to do that here in New Jersey. That building that I work out of is 54 by 72. It's plenty big enough. I store stuff in there, tractors. It's a workshop. It's a granary when I need space. When I was doing corn, I've had that thing full right out to past the first side door with corn, which is somewhere around, 10,000 bushels. Excuse me. So I could get 10,000 bushels of grain in there if I stack it up to the rafters. And, it's kind of hard on the building, but we do it anyway. And now that we're out of the grain business, I used it for whatever the hell I needed it for, which is basically storage for tractors and parts and pieces. So that's what that's about. Do I need a new grain bin? Well, if I'm going to go into this grain business again, I would definitely need to upgrade, redo, or rebuild the bin that I have. And I think I've pretty much settled on rebuilding the bin that I have right up to the door. So I'll go from the door down and add another ring down, bring that bin up to about 25,000 bushels, possibly put stiffeners in, whatnot, a false floor for sure. So that's about where I would need to be to make me happy. Personally, storing grain is, generally in fall you get the best pricing. I would love to just ship it right away out the door. I have not forward contracted anything because I'm still, the way this weather's going, I may not have the money to grow corn. It takes money to grow corn. And I haven't gotten my hay made. I've still got $500,000 worth of hay laying out in the field. Yes, $500,000, just like you said. And I'm in that tuck and roll kind of mode right now. You don't see me buying anything new. You don't see me taking a trip, a vacation, or anything like that on in my personal life. But I'll get that hay made. We're supposed to get frozen weather end of this month and into February like normal. Hopefully the snow staves off until March, late February, March, because that's usually when we do get snow. And I can take my vacation then if I get my hay made. But Teresa's mom, my new mother-in-law, she has to come back from the Philippines in the middle of February to the United States for some immigration stuff. Legal immigration stuff. We do not keep her here illegally. It's just so you assholes that are going to go throwing that in there. Well, you want to build the wall, but you promote immigration. Of course, promote legal immigration. Illegals. You seen the borders? You seen Border Wars? There's a television show. I watched about 10 minutes of it. National Geographic had a really good one on. And every liberal jackass that's in Washington should be forced to watch that. Not sit on a beach in Hawaii while the government's shut down, but should be made to watch the National Geographic's program on the border and how disgusting it is down there with human trafficking. I mean, they're bringing these young ladies into the country for sex slaves in the sex trade. They tell them, "Oh, you'll be our sex slave for 6 months, and 3 to 5 years later, they're still fucking for money because she doesn't know how much she owes. She doesn't know the value of a $20 bill. She doesn't know that in the first 5 days of her being in the country, the debt that she would need to be paid off to these coyotes are more than paid off, and by double by that time, because they just get shitty living quarters and food and clothes to dress like a whore that they are being forced to be, so that they can go fuck for money for the coyotes to make hundreds of thousands of dollars off of them. And it's not just men that are doing this. There's women in this trade. Actually, the most prolific, according to the National Geographic, the most prolific and the highest ranking, what would you call them, pimp, is a woman in her 30s. And they blur her face, but she's like, I'm 36 years old, and I'll never give this up. The wall does not have to be built. I need my girls to work for me. That kind of crap. So go watch the National Geographic. And if you don't agree with the wall, and you think that the border should be open, like that woman that was killed in, in Iowa or Nebraska or whatever, running through the corn rows by an illegal alien. She was murdered by an illegal alien. It's too bad you can't ask her, because you know what? She was pro open borders, pro let them all in, pro free reign on the country. Come to New Jersey and drive from here to New York, from here to Flemington, from here to Philadelphia, and tell me how you want to be on the roads. We are so congested and choked here in New Jersey, Philadelphia, New York area, Connecticut, I'm sure is just the same way. I haven't been up through there in a while, but the last time I was, it was like, oh my God, I just want to pull my ass hair out just because of this. I can't pull my head hair out of my head, you know. But yeah, it's terrible how many people are here. And I watched Ryan do his live stream, and he said something about having, I don't know, I think he was talking about a football team, and it would promote economic growth. If you think driving down the road in a tractor right now is tough, you get economic growth, you'll love that, because you'll be like in shock. You have to stop at every intersection and wait for 5 minutes for the cars to clear out enough, or stick your nose out in front of cars so that you can get them to slow down enough that you can get out onto the road. Believe me, I've done it. There's no courtesy. There's no love for a farmer in this world. We're all just a bunch of assholes that choke up the highways in the United States because we enjoy driving down the road in our slow-ass tractors. I mean, I've heard it all. I've seen it all. I've gotten a finger by many. I had a guy pull past me in Baptist-town, pull past me, jam on his brakes, stick his finger out the window like this at me, and then race ahead. I mean, almost, I wasn't stopping or slowing down. If you pull in front of me and slam on your brakes, you're going to have an 85-30 over the top of your car. You'll be crushed and killed before I stop that tractor, because I have no love for idiots. I don't. You know, people call me a racist. I'm not racist. And I don't hate anyone, but I really hate stupid people. But this guy, he goes past me, freaking flips me off like this in the back seat and then this out the window. And then he goes up to the next driveway. Now I'm rolling, I think I had the 8120 at the time. Pulls into the driveway the next way and then comes racing back up the way like this over his steering wheel. As if I did something to him. Like, okay, I've got my tractor and my baler. I remember where I was going. I was going back to the farm. And, I had a strong urge to yank that steering wheel back across the 2 lanes and run that asshole over. But it isn't worth it. And it's like, oh, okay. Nah, it's not worth it. I'm not doing that. So, yeah. But I get people like that. So if you're in Wisconsin, Nebraska, and you think that the traffic is bad and you want economic growth, good luck to you. I'll show you economic growth. Actually, I invite Ryan and Travis and Dwight and Beth all out to New Jersey, and we'll take them for a ride in a tractor, and they can see what economic growth at 5 o'clock in the afternoon is like in New Jersey, They'll be like, holy shit, get me back to Wisconsin now, because it is pretty rough. It's pretty rough out here. I said to my dad, about the shoulders being really rough now because they've repaved Route 12. And I said, God, those shoulders are really pretty rough and there's a lot of junk in them. He said, well, what the hell are you riding down the shoulder for? He said, I quit doing that about a year ago. I said, really? He says, yeah. He says, I ain't riding down that shoulder. Fuck them. He said, let them stay behind us. He says, if you're on that shoulder and they're passing you, they pass while people are coming the other way. They don't care. He says, and guess what? If there's an accident right in front of you and they hit you, you're going to be the cause of it. So I figured, yeah, you're right. I agree. That's the way they are. So I don't ride down the shoulders anymore either. To hell with them. So anyway, as you all know, I've recently taken the vows of, the longest sentence known to man. I do, that's 2 words. I do. And I'm happy about it. I really am. I'm happy about that. I do have some advice to people, I was married once before. It's 15 years ago that I was divorced. It's about 15, 16 years ago, something like that. 15. Anyway, let's just call it 15 years ago was the finalization of my divorce. I was separated in March of 2000. April, May, March. It was March. March of 2004 was when I was separated from my wife. And it was a really hard time for me. And it caused a lot of family unrest and hate and pain. And that lasted all the way up till my children turned the age of 18. You see, Haley and Joe were 3 and 4 years old when their mother decided that she would go, a guy on the internet. And, that's just the way that worked out. And I just couldn't handle that. And I was able to keep the children for quite a long time. 12 years, to be exact. I was primary parent for 12 years until there was an incident here at the house that, they just didn't want to follow Dad's rules anymore, and they thought that living with their mom was a better deal, which they found out later that, there was no parent there, and, of course, the court system, those stupid motherfuckers, they were like, oh, yeah, okay, you disciplined your kid like you were disciplined when you were a child, and can't do that no more. You are no longer their father. You can give your ex-wife child support, and you don't get to see your children ever again. So it was kind of hard for me. And I do have some words of advice for anybody that is going to be getting married. It's getting married. Don't get married too young. I was 19 when I got married first go around. And I was happy. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I loved her. And I would have spent the rest of my life with her. I was, very happy and very upset that what happened had happened. And, my parents cared for her. And my whole family did. My whole family loved her. And, it was a good, I guess I could say it was a good marriage right up to the end. Because I had no idea what was going on. I found out since that there were some things that she was doing that were not kosher. One from all the weirdest places was from my son Timothy. And he told me that, oh yeah, Mommy used to pick up this guy and take him to school because Michelle went to, I shouldn't use her name, but Michelle is her name. She went to school after we were married, after Timothy was born. She graduated in 2000, before Joseph was born. Joe was born in August, and she graduated in like May of 2000 from the local community college here. And, but she used to take Timothy when she would take these couple of courses. It took her like 5 years to get that 2-year course taken care of because she was working at the time also, which I thought she was doing a good job, But Tim says, oh, yeah, Mom used to pick a guy up and park and leave me in the car alone, and she would get mad at me because I would get out of the car seat. And we're talking a 4, 5, 6-year-old kid here, 4 or 5-year-old little boy, and he's curious, and he was able to get out of the car seat and used to piss her off. But yeah, she was picking up a guy going to a park and going for walks. Love that. Makes you wonder about your own kids later, the ones after the affair. I'd like to know who that guy was, to be honest with you. I have a sneaking suspicion I know who it was. But it doesn't even matter now. But I do have some information and some advice for the young folk, somewhere in that, 18, 19, 20-year range, out of high school, going into college, or maybe you're going to put off college to become married and work on the family farm. Don't do it. I mean, just don't get married at that age. The world is very different than it was when your great-grandparents or your grandparents or great-grandparents were born or married. My parents were high school sweethearts, just like me and my ex-wife were too. My parents are still together. I obviously have been divorced, and now I'm remarried to Teresa, which I'm very happy for. But, the world had changed somewhere in that 20 years. From the time that they had gotten married, 21, 22 years difference, than when I got married. Computers were new on the scene. They weren't new on the scene, but home computers were, the internet didn't show up until what? I don't know, in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, but nobody was on the internet until Windows 93. I got my first computer in 95. And, I'd been married for 4 years, but I got my first computer in 95 because Michelle needed it for schoolwork. And I just wanted to surf the internet, look for porn. No, that's not what I was doing. Well, I mean, I did, just like everybody else did. And if you got a computer back in the day and you tell me that you didn't look for porn on the computer, you're lying. But anyways, yeah, it was just something like, holy shit, this is free now, But anyway, it was a lot of fun back in the day when computers. Most of my viewers were not even born yet in, I shouldn't say most of you, but a fair proportion of you weren't even born yet when I got my first computer, And when I was a kid, our first computer was purchased in 1980 or 81, and then you had a modem you took a telephone and you put it onto this modem, and then it would dial through the handset. Yeah, through the handset. The old house phones, which 99% of people don't even know what they look like anymore. So, you'd put that on there, and then you would dial up, and it would go and crazy stuff, and then you could type a sentence to your friend. It was early texting back then. We never had the modem, but I knew kids. Chad Burgess, he had modems. Freddie Hires had a modem, and they weren't even friends, and they were like, "Oh, give me your phone number. I want to send you a message through my computer." And they're like, "Dit-dit-dit-dit." So yeah, they would do that. But anyways, now getting on to the words of advice. Okay, so if you're 18, 19, 20 years old, don't get married. You can love that girl. Test your relationship. Test it by being separate. Go to college, go to tech school, go take a tour of the world, for God's sakes. You're 20 years old. The world is your oyster, man. Go play. I'm not saying just go fuck a bunch of whores in Bangkok, Thailand. I'm saying go to Thailand or China or Australia or Europe, England, Belgium, France, Germany. Go see those places. Go to Russia. What the hell? Russia's not a bad place. They just make it out to be bad on TV. It's really not. Go to Jerusalem. I'm really seriously considering going to Jerusalem Jerusalem in the Middle East, I want to go to Jerusalem. Israel. I just want to see it. I want to see it. and it would be neat to go to Giza, to the Great Pyramids. I think that would be a really cool trip down to Italy, down through the Mediterranean. Leave the coast of France and off to Spain and just go see this stuff. So if you're in that age group, go do those things. Take your girlfriend, for God's sakes, or, find out if she likes the same things that you do, because you're kids. You don't know. You're still developing. A female will develop until she's, her mind will develop, her likes and dislikes, I say, for the rest of her freaking life. But she matures much earlier than a boy does. She's mature at, say, 24 years old, and the male mind is supposed to be mature at 27, but I think it's later. I really do. I think it's a little bit later. But, go see the world. Go do whatever you have to do. But do it separately or do it together. Find out if you really are truly a compatible couple. The second part to that thing is, if your parents, siblings, grandparents really hate the girl or dislike the guy or hate the guy that you're about to marry, and I'm just going to gear this to guys because there's not too many females that watch or women that watch this channel. They really don't. So if your family hates the girl, like she's no good, she's just going to cause you heartache later down the line, listen to them. They're either like me, have gone through that kind of bullshit, or they can see all the faults in that person that you're blinded by that little patch of hair. Well, I don't think they have hair anymore. But that little patch of hair down there between her legs, that will blind a man. Those are blindfolds. They're just like, oh my God, I can't be without you. But really, you're thinking of this. Yeah. And that's not the Illuminati sign. That's the pussy. Anyway, so if you're just blinded by that, your dad, your grandfather, your grandmother, your mom, your sisters, if your sister-in-laws, if they dislike that girl, or if they can see what she truly is, or has heard her talk in confidence, like, oh, I'm only in it for the money, I mean, if I only have to be married, or just comments like that, oh, I have to be married for 10 years and then I get half of this mess, like, that's what I'm here for. Listen to your parents. Listen to them. Don't marry that person. Now, if you're 25 and above, 25 to 35, and you're in that area, you're in child rearing areas. I mean, girls at 16 get pregnant when the wind blows. I mean, you just get your dick near her and she's pregnant. That's the way it is. You get to that 25 to 30-year-old range, it starts to get a little more difficult. So a woman is really thinking, like I said, mature at 24. A woman is thinking family, thinking settling down. I've already sowed my wild oats. Whereas a man, he's a little bit more, duh. He's looking for that right there. So if you're a woman and you're looking for a man, wait till he's somewhere around 29, 30. That's the perfect time to marry a man, when he's around 30 years old. You're going to be in your mid-20s to 30, but you're going to be, you're not looking at this anymore, and he's kind of looking at yours and thinking, you know what, there's a lot more behind the eyes than there is between her legs, so maybe that's the one I really want to marry and have children with. To be quite honest with you, I wish I had done that. It's sad to say, but I really do. I wish I had not had the, this on my mind as much, because she was a bit controlling. She was more controlling. She's like, if you don't ask me to marry you, I'm leaving. And that's a true story. If you don't set the date for our wedding, I'm leaving. You'll never see me again. And I'm like, I need this. I didn't need that. And it cost me years of heartache. Screwed up my kids, made a mess. Cost me more money than you could ever imagine. Cost me me. You ask my mom or dad if I am the person that I was when I, in my 20s and early 30s, before the hammer fell, they'll say that we don't really recognize him. He's very different than he was then. And it's true. I was shy. I was shy. I didn't talk to too many people. I did my work and kept to myself, and my mind was always going in a direction of advancement. And I don't care what I still have that, but I did care about people more then. I did care what people thought more. Since the internet, I've given a lot less of a shit because there's just a bunch of shitty people on here. They're just keyboard warriors, and you just have to understand them. But if your parents hate your, soon-to-be partner, life partner, don't marry them. I was worried when I got married to Teresa. I was worried that they wouldn't like her. I was worried, and she was too. She really was. And Teresa's Teresa. That girl, I've known her since 2009. Almost 10 years. I will know her 10 years in June of this year. 10 years. Can you believe that? I've known her that long. I don't know her intimately that long, obviously. But she hasn't changed. I mean, well, she has changed. Her temper's a little less wild, and she's settled down. And since William was born, she is a totally different person. For the better. And she's a fierce mother. I mean, really a good mom. She really is. She loves that little boy. And, when I fell down the stairs, I knew that she was definitely the right person to be with, because she didn't give a shit about me falling down them stairs. She grabbed that little boy up and inspected him with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that there wasn't a scratch on his head. And I'm glad for that. And then she started to pay attention to me, like, does this hurt? That kind of thing. Yeah, that's the kind of woman you want. You don't want one that's like, oh my God, are you okay? Oh, where's the baby? That kind of shit. No, you don't want that. You want a woman that goes for the child first. And that's a true mother. But yeah, I think my ex-wife, if she'd have fell down the stairs, she'd have wished she landed on one of the kids to break her fall. But that's just me talking. If she's watching this, well, truth hurts. I've seen her fall down the stairs and she cries and the kids crawl off the stairs. That's why I say that. She fell down the stairs one time in the house where we were married. There was a spiral staircase, and she tumbled, and the kid tumbled and fell, and the kid was fine. I think it was Haley. She just crawled away, got up, cried a little bit, and she was okay. And Michelle's like, I think I need to go to the hospital. Didn't care about what happened to the kid. It was all about her. And when you're married to somebody like that, you don't really see it. But your parents do, And then when they leave, like they're getting this guy on the internet, and he's like, oh, yeah, I want to spend the rest of my life with you because my husband, he works all the time, and he wants a house, and, that sort of crap. Oh, my God. I could tell you stories that would, curl your fucking hair. Even though, I loved her, and I would still be married to her faithfully. Yeah, after I got married in 91. You know how many years that is? I mean, we're talking a few years now. 91, was that 18 years? No, 28 years? Something like that. Anyway, I'm not married anymore. Yeah. Well, I'm married now, but not to her. So that's just the advice that I have. Go ask your parents. If you bring a girl home and you're hanging out for a while, and it's like, hey, this girl's really good, and then say, Dad, what do you really think of my future wife, or the woman that I'm her? Ask your father or mother. If you're a man, ask your dad. Hey, Dad, what do you think of so and so? I want your honest opinion. What do you think of her or him? Well, I'll just say her. What do you think of her? And if he said, she ain't worth the salt she eats on her eggs for breakfast, you just stand back and say, hey, you know what? Maybe I need to rethink that. If you talk to your dad and say, hey, you know what? I think she's great. She's got her, and I've always said this, not always. I've said this to my young viewing crew, or subscribers, that a relationship is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. No, it's like the scales of justice. Okay, so you've got the woman, she's in the middle here, and then you have her good stuff and you have her bad stuff. It's like, okay, you can't have the scales tipped this way because it's boring. I mean, if it's all good, it's all good. Yeah, everything's great. La 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 la. It gets boring. You need a little fire in her ass. You need to have the disagreements. You need to have she needs to have things that she doesn't like that maybe you don't like either, or she likes to do and you don't like to do. So you have to get this thing balanced out. Like, okay, so I really love her. She's a great girl, and but she drives too fast. And I'm afraid she's going to get killed. So that's a bad thing. You really don't want her to drive like a fucking maniac because she could kill you and your family after you get married. So that's kind of one of these things. So if she's a cigarette smoker and you're okay with it, that's a bad thing. But if you like it, it still comes down to this level area. You can love somebody and, let them smoke cigarettes if you want. I don't particularly like it. When I met Teresa, she smoked cigarettes. She's a beautiful woman, had the ugliest, and that made her so ugly when she was smoking a cigarette. And I'll never forget the first time I told her that. And you're standing out in front of the store she worked at, and she takes a long drag on that cigarette and blew it in my face. I was like, you bitch. You bitch. You're so ugly when you do that. None of your fucking business. She had some sass to her. She still does. But, so you weigh it all out. My mom and dad like Teresa. I haven't heard anything bad about her. I mean, my dad said a couple of things about her, when we first got together. But, you just have to understand that there is a cultural difference between me and Teresa. But, and sometimes she doesn't understand the American way, even though she is a legal American citizen. Thank you very much. But she does. We did have some issues about cultural differences. One was children, my children. And, there was just some things that she couldn't understand. But she does now. And it's all good. But, my parents, they like her. They love her. They think she's a good girl. They were happy for us when we got married. They came to our wedding. Our wedding was extraordinarily small. It was just going to be me, Teresa, and my 3 children. And Timothy wasn't going to go. And I told him, I said, you're really hurting my feelings. I really like you to be there. And his whole thing was, well, I don't want to happen to you like what happened with Mom. And I don't think that's going to happen because, again, the balance, bad stuff, good stuff. And her husband, this is how he was. He was here. He had more bad things than he had good things. There was no balance there. There was no communication. He did what he wanted to do. He didn't give a shit about anybody else. He hated Timothy. And, hey, there it is. But, yeah, there you go. So I guess that's what I'm talking about today. Ask your parents. See what they think. Say, hey, we really like her, but, there's a couple of things she needs to work on. But if you have a family member that, and there's a lot with you farming guys, there's a lot at stake here. I know a guy over here, he's about 7-8 miles away in Pennsylvania, and he married a woman, when he was very young, like 20, and they just so happened to be high school sweethearts, and they were incompatible. And his father knew it, because I spoke with his father. He was an old man at the time. He was in his early 70s. About my dad's age. And he said, I knew when he married her that there was going to be trouble. I didn't know when, but I knew there would be trouble. So his mother and father were in their mid-70s, I'd just say mid-70s. So they got one foot in the grave and another on a banana peel, right? Not really, but they were in their retirement years, but yet he was still working. His son was married, had 2 children, and she never stepped foot on the farm except the piece of ground that was subdivided off, and the house that they had built and raised their children in. When the last child graduated college, she says, I want a divorce. And he's like, what? What do you mean? I had no idea. I hate this farm. I hate this farming life. I hate it. I want out. I want. Do you know that she sued the in-laws, his parents, for half of their farm, the whole farm, because he was going to inherit it when they died. And because they had been married for like 30 years, that she wanted the half. And they're like, what do you... So they have to dip into their retirement money, their funds that they've had, saved up for their retirement, to defend themselves against their daughter-in-law, who just so happens to be a greedy cunt that wants half of their farm, and they're not even dead yet. He hasn't inherited it. He ended up giving her the whole entire house and alimony for like the rest of his freaking life. But they spent a lot of money to defend themselves. Now, I have cousins across the river here, on my grandmother's side, her family, or my family, on the Weaver side. My grandmother was a Weaver. And they had a son that fell down a mountain. My cousin fell down a mountain with a rifle on his back, chasing a fucking deer. So he goes down the side. I call it a mountain. It wasn't. If you go look across from our place, there's cliffs that come from Pennsylvania. And it goes into a valley. And then you have the Delaware River, and then you cross Delaware River and it's into New Jersey. And down farther in New Jersey, you get the same thing going the other way. It's just eroded out cliffs. He fell down that, broke his back, and was a quadriplegic, partial quadriplegic. He could type, write. He could write and type, and he had an electric wheelchair, and he worked every day of his life in the office. And then he married his high school sweetheart. Now, his high school sweetheart, when he died, he had the home that they had together because he worked. He worked in the family business. They paid him. He had a nice life there, and his wife. And she, of course, got the house and immediately sold the house and moved in with her longtime boyfriend. Yes, longtime boyfriend, because she wasn't getting what she needed from her husband, even though she loved him, kinda. What she really wanted was the family fortune. They were hardworking people. They had land, they had money, and she wanted half of it. And she sued her in-laws after her husband died. And even though she had a boyfriend forever, she sued her in-laws and got over $1 million worth of money paid to her through that lawsuit, because he didn't live long enough to inherit the farm, even though he had brothers. Stupid. He had brother and sister. I believe brother and sister. I'm not really that close to that family side of the family. She got over $1 million. She sold everything here. Changed her name to the Little Mermaid. Ariel. Who the hell would ever name themselves Ariel? Well, she changed her name to Ariel and moved to Maine, and there she had all this money. And so, like I said, if you've got a family with assets and money in your bank accounts and stuff, please just heed the warnings, man. See what other, like I said, you're blinded by this. Ask your parents, ask your friends, ask your grandparents, ask your sister, your brother. Ask them what they think of your future wife. And if they say, hey, you know what, she's just a gold-digging bitch, kick her sorry ass to the curb. I mean, if she's got an attitude towards your parents because they don't like her, that's a very good indication to kick her sorry ass to the curb. She doesn't need to be in the family. She doesn't deserve it. You're going to have kids with this woman, and she's just going to be a nasty bitch to your family, because now you're tied down. You have nothing together when you're first married and you got kids, but once you get into that age group where your parents are in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and your children just graduate college, and the woman's like, I think I should sue them for half of the assets that I would have inherited if I stayed with this guy, but he's just a stupid farmer, and he doesn't know what the real deal is. Yeah, kick her sorry ass to the curb. I know a few people that have done this, and there's a guy over here across the river, and he's not related to me that I know of. He's another farmer. He bales straw. He bales straw. He started the big baler business about 10 years ago, and he runs to Michigan to bale straw for Pacific Ag, and he has a huge hay business here, and he does some mulch hay and sends it down to the composters and stuff. And he refuses to get married, and he just changes out his girlfriend about every 5 years, which has got to be hard on his heart. I mean, he's my age or a little younger than me. I think he's a little bit younger than me, not much, but you fall in love with a person and then you refuse to marry her, and she's like, my biological clock is ticking. His mind is still here. He's not on the behind the eyeballs and between the ears kind of yet, but he's very distrusting. His parents are still together. It's not like he's divorced. They're divorced, and he saw the dirty parts of life. But yeah, he needs to find a good woman that's on the farm. And if he is a farmer, and you need somebody that wants to be on the farm, somebody that wants to help make the farm successful. If you met a woman that says, that's your business, I don't want anything to do with it, and doesn't really understand what it takes to be a farmer, you're going to have problems. And women aren't stupid. I mean, they think. They're in the long game. When you're in a fight with a woman or a girlfriend, they remember the little shit that you didn't do. You never took the garbage out to your truck 5 weeks ago. So you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Is it still in the kitchen? Is it still in the kitchen? That kind of stuff. Yeah, they just remember the bad stuff. Like, oh, well, I had a vacation planned, and you couldn't go, so we lost $2,000. That kind of crap, which could happen. It does happen. They remember that stuff. Yeah, it's not happy. They're not happy times when you can't do the things you really want to do, when you got work to do. And you need a woman that understands that. And I found that person. She's like right behind that wall, right there, right behind the wall. She's a really good girl. And yeah, so I guess there's not much ag talk in here. It's more like personal information on myself and, from the past and the present. And, hopefully I can help some of you guys out before you end up into a shit show of biblical proportions where your family is torn apart because you couldn't get past this. You didn't ask the big questions, And, yeah, I'm sure there's a few guys that this is going to touch, and a few girls that are going to be like, that motherfucker, he caused me and my boyfriend to break up. Oh, just call me OLF God. No, I'm not God. But I'm just saying, they do have that idea. Yeah, they do. So, anyways, I guess that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Please comment, rate, and subscribe for more. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, because it is free. Free. You can sign up for YouTube Red and get it for nothing. I don't know if forget it for, it'll cost you money then, like $5-10 a month. But you don't get to watch the ads because they don't have them on there. Thanks anyway. Goodbye.